This
All
is
right.
March the 6th. Is this supposed to be February?
They say March 6th. They say March 6th.
That's good.
All right, just sign it. You're good. All right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. As soon as all the Girl Scout cookies have been delivered. All right. All right, first things first, do a roll call, please.
Everybody votes.
Oh, yep. Please go ahead and use your iPad device to vote. Although I'm not getting a vote screen. All right. Does it need cookies?
Yeah, it's cookies.
Yeah. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to welcome our newest board member. Oh, uh-oh. She's getting some technical help from Jennifer Ward there. So I'd like to welcome Judy White, Dr. Judy White, to our board. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. And with that, we do have the vote up now on the iPad, so if everyone that's here can go ahead and click yes to show that you're here. Huh? Oh, well, hey, I'm just, going along, keeping the dialogue going.
We're just waiting on you, Dan.
Are we all checked in? No, no. See, it's not just me.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Brendan. Western Municipal Water District, please log.
Okay. The efficiencies of this new system are starking. Not stark, but starky. Yes?
Oh, yeah, tonight. I was thinking of it,
Are we good? Don't worry, Kevin, you haven't missed anything. We're still checking in. 4 minutes.
Yes, you're here.
All right, everybody check and make sure you're on the board if you're here. Looks like we're good. With that, we'll go into public comment. Oh, excuse me. I'm remiss. We need to first start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Kevin, since you're here, would you go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Lead us, lead us. Please join me in the pledge. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have two public comment speakers with Daniel Soltero. Did I get that close, Daniel? All right. I had a lot of practice last Friday, so went through about 300 speaker slips at AQMD.
Chair, my name is Daniel Soltero. I am a WRCOG fellow from the city of Murrieta. I'm here to give you some insight and some information as to what the fellowship entails. For the past 8.5 months, I have been at the city of Murrieta under the city manager and assistant to the city manager for Mr. Brian Ambrose. I've taken on a vast variety of tasks, from attending public meetings drafting administrative policies, implementing regional programs such as the Regional Homeless Alliance. That has been one of my more favorite tasks that I've had. The Regional Homeless Alliance is a 5-city alliance between the cities of Murrieta, Lake Elsinore, Menifee, Wildomar, and Temecula. With that, I've attended numerous meetings. I have helped with implementing part of the program, which is to find housing in the region, as well as funding from public-private partnerships utilizing faith-based organizations as well as other nonprofits. The other portion of my fellowship entails the Regional Streetlight Program, which, as we all know, is becoming more and more implemented as the year comes along. I've conducted lots of research for the city, helped with coordinating meetings, as well as attending more meetings in general. The other part that I'm here to talk to you about is the brain drain that the County of Riverside experiences. One of the very important parts of this fellowship is trying to keep students who are coming out of our universities here in Riverside County, as well as San Bernardino County, trying to keep them here in the region. 1 in 4 students from the area ends up moving, 1 in 4 ends up staying in the county and working here, whereas the other 3 work, live, and play in Orange, Los Angeles, and San Diego counties. The really good thing about this fellowship is that it helps ground us here in the region, as well as give us opportunity and overall just much better chance at staying in the region, working, living, and playing here. It's one of the strategies that I see the county implementing, as well as municipalities, into keeping our students here. And if we can get more public outreach for this, or if we can just get it to a level where we have more students coming in from UCR, Cal Baptist, as it is right now, CSU San Marcos, and CSU San Bernardino, it'd be great for the region in general. And with that, I thank you all, Executive Committee. I believe this program is grounded well and is on its way to astounding part of the county.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My takeaway is you go to a lot of meetings for us.
Yeah, a lot of it's coordinating and just in general, lots of research. And I'm very glad to attend lots of it and have really good mentors in the city as well as here at WRCOG and you all.
Very good.
If you guys have any questions, I can answer for you.
Any questions, anyone? Go ahead. Sure.
We were lucky enough to have Bobby Frisch as our intern, and I'm delighted to have him, and I'm happy to say that the city has hired him. So I
Yes.
think that was the whole idea of this program, and it looks like it worked pretty well. So we're delighted, and he's delighted, so great program, and I want to thank WRCOG for that.
Very good.
And that's one of the few success stories that we've experienced so far with our fellows. Yeah.
Very good. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank
Our
you.
next speaker, Arnold San Miguel from SCAG.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Executive Committee. Just wanted to bring to your attention this postcard that's been placed in front of you. We are having our annual regional conference and General Assembly on May 4th and 5th at the JW Marriott in Palm Desert. All elected officials, registration is free and for all city managers. So just encourage you the program is being developed to attend, and I think you will find that worth your while. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, with that, we are actually going to go a little off the agenda here and go into closed session now. We have an item that we need to go ahead and discuss. I want to make sure we do it with the most of our body that we can before we lose anybody later in the meeting. So if the board would be okay with that, we're going to go ahead and do that now. Steve? System back on too. Check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. All right. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Thank you for everyone for giving us that time. And as there were no reportable actions, we'll just need to move on. Looking at the consent calendar, does anyone have any questions, comments, want to pull any items? If not, I'll look for motion. Oh, Debbie?
Yes, I just want to abstain on item number G and then vote on the rest of the others.
All right. Should we abstain on item G? Anyone else? I'll look for a motion.
Do it on here. You need a motion?
Well, they're action items, right? A through D.
No. It's consent. That's all the consent item.
Yeah. Right. So I need a motion on the items.
Consent goes through M as in Mary. The consent calendar has items A through M as in Mary, not G.
Right. Right, no, I'm abstaining on.
You're abstaining from G.
Right.
Thank you.
I don't know why that's so hard. Kelly made the motion from City of Marietta. Anyone want to second that? All right, and you can use the screen to do that as well. All right.
City of Hemet, please vote. City of Marietta, please vote. District 5, please vote. Eastern Municipal Water District,
All right,
please
and I
vote.
had motion makers on the devices of San Jacinto and Lake Elsinore. My apologies. All right, on to item 6A.
The Eastern Municipal Water District needs to vote, please. He's not here.
He's not here. Is Eastern in the building? Okay.
Give me a second to mark him out, please.
All right.
All accounted for.
All right, on to item 6A, the PACE Programs Activities Update. Barbara, come on down.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members, and Barbara Spooner, Director of Energy and Environmental Programs at WRCOG. I'm going to provide an update on our PACE program, specifically the HERO program, which provides financing to residential and commercial property owners for energy-efficient water conservation and renewable energy projects. The financing is then added to the property owner's tax bill for repayment. I'll provide an overview of the activities of the HERO program, and then I'm going to present on a way for lowering interest rates for the HERO program. I do have Ari Matuziak from Renovate America in the audience. He'll be able to answer any questions at the end. To provide you with an update, we have 361 cities and counties that are now part of the California HERO program. We've accepted over 161,000 applications with a little over 105,000 being approved. From January 2012 through today, there have been nearly 35,000 applications in WRCOG subregion that have been approved, with over 37,000 projects being completed for over $427 million. This equates to an annual number of $739 million in economic impact, over 362,000 jobs, 847 million gallons of water, and with 314 gigawatts of energy being saved on an annual basis in the subregion. There are also copies of your individual jurisdiction snapshot in your folder. We presented the following idea to the WRCOG Administration and Finance Committee in January 2017, and then after discussions at that committee, we were referred to the WRCOG PACE Ad Hoc Committee to gain additional information on what we were proposing. The WRCOG PACE Ad Hoc Committee is recommending that the Executive Committee support moving forward with this idea. Over the past few months, staff has been working with Renovate America, WRCOG's funding partner, to look for ways to reduce interest rates for the HERO program. With a little over 5 years of funding under our belts, there have been a number of comments from our consumers about our interest rates. While they're cheaper than the average credit card, they are higher than a home equity line of credit or a second mortgage. By adding a different rate structure to our current interest rate, the HERO program can remain competitive in the market, and this will also add more options for the contractors to grow their businesses while improving the overall consumer experience. We are proposing to implement reduced interest rates to the consumer through a contractor/dealer fee model. This is common with other financings that are offered to contractors. We actually had a contractor attend our PACE ad hoc committee meeting to confirm that this is an acceptable practice in the contracting community. With the rollout of our process, we expect an average savings of $6,700 to the consumer based on an $18,100 assessment over 20 years. So really, what is a contractor or a dealer fee? In short, the contractor pays a percentage of the project cost back to the financing entity, and they are allowed to offer a lower interest rate. As I stated earlier, this is a common practice in the contracting industry. Examples of this occur when contractors offer consumers Wells Fargo, Synchronicity, Mosaic, or Green Sky financing for their projects. In addition, another way to look at it is when a homeowner is looking to reduce their interest rate for their mortgages and they pay points to get those interest rates reduced. We are proposing to add 3 additional rate structures for contractors to select from. The dealer fees being proposed go from 3.49% to 12.39%. In looking at our 20-year rate, the interest rate could be lowered from 8.35%, which is our current, and will still be available to contractors, to potentially 5.49%, depending on which rate set the contractor selects. To prevent contractors from going from home to home offering different interest rates, we are having the contractor select a rate structure for a minimum of 90 days. This will allow the contractors to select which fee best fits their business model. When looking at the proposal before you, the contractor dealer fee is on average 7.5%, whereas the average of other financing options is roughly 12.14%. From a model being proposed, if a contractor participates using the HERO program, they would have a savings of roughly $800. There are a number of benefits to the homeowner and to the community. These include lower payments to the consumer, higher consumer satisfaction with lower payments and interest rates, increase in projects that deliver energy and water savings. One question we received at the Admin and Finance Committee was, how will we ensure that the fees are not being passed on to the consumer? And if they do, what will happen? Renovate will be adding a ban on direct fee passage into its contractor participation agreement. Renovate will also, during the confirmed terms call, which happens with every single call and project going through, ensure that the homeowner was not offered different pricing for the HERO program from the contractor. All projects will be tracked on a project by contractor basis to see if there's any spikes in that contractor's specific pricing. On a monthly basis, we will review these numbers, and if costs are found to be being passed on to the consumer, we will require that the contractor reimburse the consumer in the difference. Additionally, if a contractor is not in compliance with their participation agreement, they will be suspended or terminated from being a registered contractor and not allowed to offer the HERO program. Again, contractors can choose what the best rate and fee structure is for them and their business. Adding the 3 additional structures is in addition to our current rate structure, so the contractor does have the ability to stay with our current interest rate structure if they so choose. To recap, most contractors already use some type of financing that has a contractor fee involved. We're offering close to a 5% savings on the dealer contractor fees that they currently are paying to another financing entity, and all registered contractors are able to participate in our program. Another question we receive is how will this impact Renovate's bottom line? On a per deal basis, the lowering of interest rates does lower the revenues going to Renovate. However, by lowering the interest rates, we're hoping to see an increase in the amount of projects being financed, and that would increase the bottom line. Renovate will be providing Renovate will be providing us monthly reports on the implementation of the fee, and on a quarterly basis, we'll be sitting down and reviewing with Renovate on the projects and the contractors to see how this is working and see if there are any changes that need made would be brought back to the committee for discussion. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation, and we do have one recommendation, which is to support the WRCOG PACE Ad Hoc Committee's recommendation for the HERO program to implement some new rate options and direct staff to return in 90 days with a report on program revisions and impacts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. In addition, Ari would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Now, that was a lot to take in. Does anyone have any questions on this item? I know I did when we first heard it in Admin Committee. Cal Mesa?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get changed over to this other side. Barbara, we've got basically these dealer fees are the same as contractor fees, right? They're interchangeable term. And I'm looking, if we're going to go from that, current rate of 6.75% down to the next, we're going to only have to pay a 3.5% fee of the size of the contract. Is that right?
Correct.
If we go down all the way down to set 4, it could be 10% in that column.
Correct.
Now, I'm a contractor, and I'm not a very successful one because obviously that 10% would be all of my profit. Maybe I'm very, very naive on this stuff, but we can push things around and put different names on them and such, but to tell somebody they can't pass it on is just like coming in and saying, we're going to raise the minimum wage that you're paying but you can't add any, cost to your product. It may be something that is used in the industry in other parts right now, but, the contractor is not going to get any more money out of that. He may try to use it in his mind that, hey, I'm paying a little bit up, I'm going to get more jobs because it's going to be more attractive because of lower. So maybe he chalks it off as advertising costs. But I think at some point we start messing with this. 10% is a chunk. Are these contractors making that much money off this to be able to afford a cut like that? And those are my real, got some real apprehension about this.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. And I'll have Ari come up in the meantime, and I'll try to address some of your questions. Again, that's why we are offering different rate sets so that the contractor can select which rate set they want that works best for their business model. Our understanding from the contractors that we spoke to, those contractors who work off of a single rate sheet, those fees are already captured in their pricing. So if they're installing a window and their cost is $500, that's what they're charging the customer is $500. That $500 already has that 12.4% built in that if they were offering Wells Fargo to the consumer that they would be paying. So there is, in some cases, that number is already built into that project.
And we asked that
Would you like
question.
to add?
Just so we asked that question to the contractor that came to our subcommittee that, we were asking that very same pointed question. How are you not passing this on? Well, I already have this type of product. I'm already in my rate sheet have built in that percentage. If they ask for that type of financing, I lose that percentage. So it's a very good question, and we've had that same. You want to add some more, Ari?
Sure. Members of the committee, my name is Ari Matuziak with Renovate America. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. Great question, and we've engaged in a number of conversations with contractors, various parts of the home improvement industry around this. Effectively, the way to think about it is that for contractors that offer financing to homeowners, some contractors don't offer financing, most obviously do. If they offer financing products to homeowners, for the most part, the financing products that they offer already have some form of contractor or dealer fee worked into the rate structure. The HERO program historically has not. What that has meant is really kind of a couple things. It has meant that the HERO program is not as attractive to folks who have access to lower interest rates in the market, right? If they can qualify for one of these other forms of financing, they might take that on. And it has also meant that that contractors themselves are not able to use the HERO product across the entire consumer base that they have. So a contractor could, for example, maintain their current business model. They could say, we want to continue offering the HERO product that has zero contractor fee or dealer fee, and they could lock into that and run their business as they have. And that was one of the reasons why we thought it was important to keep that in the market so we could start evaluating the impacts. The other thing that they could do is select one of these other term sets. They can only select one, and it's their choice which one will work best for them. What each of the term sets that have a fee provide, however, is at a comparable interest rate a much lower fee than other forms of financing. So to think about it this way, if you offer a form of financing that has a dealer fee, and you say, well, I want to accomplish my business, I want to meet my business objectives by using the HERO product that has a comparable interest rate but a lower fee, you actually would be saving money in your overall overhead as a contractor. So it doesn't prevent, this model doesn't prevent a contractor from working in their overall overhead costs and from figuring out what their overhead is and what their margin needs to be. What we are saying is that after you've done that figuring, you can't double dip. You can't then pass on the fee to the homeowner and charge a different rate than you would have charged if they were paying in cash. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, that was really slick. I'm very impressed, but no, it still comes down to the fact you talked about competing with other more traditional ones that have this built in. Why is it so bad that we have to push them out to begin with? In other words, is it our goal to make everything in any kind of energy saving improvement to somebody's house through the HERO program, or is it that we're an option to people that, again, this always started out as something that could go on our tax rolls because they didn't have the money then to do it, and this gave them an incentive to go out and maybe save, some energy on a whole lot of different ways. It looks to me like it's getting aggressive enough to where we're competing now with these other entities, and I don't know if that's our part as a government agency.
May I respond?
Sure.
I would just take a step back and look at the overall consumer experience that the program offers. What we have heard and some of the feedback that we have received is that the perceived interest rates and payments are high, and people ask that they be lowered. The mechanism that other forms of financing have in the marketplace in order to provide a lower interest rate to homeowners is via a contractor fee or a dealer fee. So this really is a way for us to offer a lower rate to homeowners, which ultimately saves them money over the long term. As I think Barbara mentioned, the average projected savings is $6,700 to the homeowner over the life of the assessment. And that's really what this is principally about. We think it has benefits to the contractor as well, because it's a way for them to increase his options for them in terms of how they manage their business or choose to manage their business. It's not intended, and I don't think it ever would be, the case that HERO crowds out every other form of financing, because people choose financing for lots of different reasons. Some people don't want to lean on their house, for example, and would never go down the path of having HERO as an option. But what this does do is it enables us to offer lower interest rates for contractors that choose a term set that has lower interest rates. Enables us to offer lower interest rates to homeowners. and to do that across the board, meaning whether or not someone has great credit or moderate credit or access to a ton of options or not access to very many, that they would still get the benefit of the lower rate. And so ultimately this is a mechanism to save homeowners money and to make the HERO product a better experience for folks in the marketplace. And we think also create an opportunity for contractors to choose how they want to use it with respect to their overall business in a way that gives them more opportunity, not less.
Well, again, if you're trying to put yourself on an even footing, I hear HERO ads every day on the radio and such. I mean, you know what you spend for advertising. A lot of the ones that you compete with don't have that. And, you know, if we were going to be fair, we'd go ahead and put some of the money into that, too. I have real reservations about it. I think that the HERO program has been extremely successful in growing, and I think this is going a little bit too far. That's all.
Certainly, and we do plan on returning in 90 days with a report to show there may be contractors who don't take advantage of it or don't feel that it is, you know, a viable option for them.
Any questions from anyone else? If not, we can go ahead and bring up the vote screen. I have a motion by the City of Paris and a second by District 5. I'm looking for everyone else's vote.
City of Lake Elsinore, please vote. Thank you.
All right, that item moves 18-2. And we'll go ahead and go on to the next item. Barbara, again, you're up with the Community's Choice Aggregation Program.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Barbara Spiar, Director of Energy and Environmental Programs. I'm here to provide you with an update on our work we've been doing with the Community Choice Aggregation, or CCA, program. The CCA program allows local governments to independently or jointly pull together under a JPA to combine their energy loads to purchase power for its constituents, while the investor-owned utility, in our case, Edison, still remains control over distribution, billing, and transmission lines. CCAs are generally created to offer lower energy costs to its consumers, a greener power supply than the investor-owned utility, and to offer a more localized program by giving consumers choice in who they receive power from. Over the past few months, we've been working with Coachella Valley Association of Governments and San Bernardino Council of Governments, SBCOG now instead of Sandbag, in having a feasibility study completed for Riverside and San Bernardino County. We have presented several iterations of our feasibility report over the past few months, and we're happy to present our final draft for the committee to approve. Our study, using very conservative numbers, shows that the creation of a CCA, either a 2-county, 1-county, or a 3-COG geographical area, is favorable. Our study looked at a number of indicators. These include energy use, customers, implementation costs, governance structures, combined savings, economic impacts, just to name a few. The combined savings for the 2-county CCA shows a 4.9% savings with a 33 renewable mix. This is comparable to Edison's 28% renewable mix. When calculating our savings, we did take into account Edison's distribution costs so that you could see the savings is the bottom line of what the customer would see. Our feasibility discusses a number of governance structures, and when I say governance structures, I'm talking about the body that's going to make the decisions for the CCA and enter into the agreements for the CCA. I'm not referring to how the CCA is going to operate. For members' reference, we will be discussing a number of governance options at our Admin and Finance Committee on Wednesday, and we hope to bring back a structure to you in March for discussion and approval. One thing we are looking to do is to gather costs associated with operating a CCA. which can be hiring all staff to do it in-house, hiring minimal staff with some consultants, or hiring a third party to handle all aspects of the CCA. We're looking to release a request for a proposal so that we can gain an idea of what those actual costs are, so that as we're making presentations to you and once the governance structure is figured out, we will actually be able to tell you which is the best option to select in terms of operating a CCA. The RFP will look at gathering costs under power supply, data management, billing services, and marketing and outreach. We have a number of steps to complete before you actually get to implementing a CCA. All in all, if everything moves without any hiccups, there could be a CCA launched in November of 2017, depending on how the structure is formulated. We have given presentations to admin and finance. We have also given presentations to the technical advisory committee to have them finalize our draft into a final feasibility study. We are here looking to finalize our feasibility study. We'll talk next week and the week after with admin and finance and tech about governance structures, and then hopefully come back to you in March with some type of governance preference. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. I do have 2 requested actions: to receive the final draft of the Inland Choice Power Community Choice Aggregation Business Plan, and to direct the Executive Director to prepare and issue an RFP for CCA contract services.
Very good. Harupa Valley?
I just had a question for clarification. The staff report of the agenda, it says page 123, under SE rates and surcharges. Can you kind of expand on what the meaning of the power cost indifference adjustment is, or the exit fee?
Love to have that discussion with you.
Okay.
The PCIA is when CCAs are formed and they leave a utility, or if a company leaves the utility and buys their power directly, they're considered a direct access customer. The utility is left holding the bag for the power that they had already had in contracts existing. So under the CPUC, the utility needs to remain indifferent, and those costs are not to be passed on to the existing rate holders. So there is a calculation, and there's some working groups because people believe the calculation is a little convoluted, and it's how it's calculated. No one really gets to see the numbers that go into the calculation because of confidentiality that occurs with the utilities and the PUC. But that's what the charge is. Okay. So when the CCA, that person remains indifferent to their previous contract for that utility usage.
Okay, thank you.
Calamesa?
Yeah, I'm not picking on you, Barbara, don't worry. On Exhibit B, on this final draft that I've got up a copy of here, there's a few jurisdictions that evidently were not participating in the CCA. And for instance, in Sandbag, that is Fontana. Down in WRCOG, it's the Riverside Unincorporated area, which isn't broken down specifically between CVAG and WRCOG. And then there's San Jacinto. Is there a reason, and how does that throw off the numbers and such? Is the question I have.
Again, our numbers are very conservative numbers in coming up with the energy savings. So they are accounted. Riverside County is not in that number. City of San Jacinto is moving forward with a JPA that they have joined to do a separate independent CCA. So those numbers are taken into account.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, anyone? If not, I'll look for a motion once we have that up. This is an action item, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. There we go. I got mover from the City of Hemet, second by the City of Eastville. Everyone else can go ahead and please vote.
And City of San Jacinto stepped away.
No fair hitting her button too, Jim. I know. All right. Maybe you should just hit the button, Jim.
Yeah, because it's not showing up. We'll just note her as absent,
Yes.
but I can't tally.
You want to go ahead and vote on this item? Or abstain? There we go. 20 of 20 votes cast, and that item passes 18-0. Very good. On to the potential WRCOG agency relocation. Barbara, I think you're good. We're all done. Yep.
I'm done.
You're
Thank you,
done.
Mr. Chair.
This is Rick. Oh, and Ernie's going to come up and present this, actually. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Executive Committee. Ernie Reyna, Chief Financial Officer for WRCOG. Staff has some updated information to provide to the Executive Committee with respect to the office move. Right after the last PowerPoint's not up. Right after the last Executive Committee meeting, staff did have some conversations with EDA that occurred right after that would help with the cost overall. And so what we're looking at now is, there we go. Okay. What we're looking at now is I'm going to go through the cost of what it's going to be now, and then compare that to what Citrus Towers was, which is what we presented to you last month. So back on August 1st, we did bring this particular option to the board just for the Pacific Premier building, but at that time, the rate was exactly the same as what we're paying now, which is $2.02 a square foot for 10,663 square feet. The only difference was back then they were not including any cost of the tenant improvements, so it was going to be a pricier option just because we had to build that out ourselves. And we're estimating a cost of about $500,000 for those. And so at that time, the Executive Committee expressed a desire not to go forward with that, but to seek some other options and to bring that back to the Executive Committee, which is what we did back on January 9th of last month. We brought these Citrus Tower options to the Executive Committee. And this particular option did include all the tenant improvements already included at $70 a square foot at $10,597, 10,500 square feet. The price of this one was $3.10. So the price was higher, but we had the tenant improvements included in there. But since that time of that approval of the Citrus Towers, we did receive information that EDA would be willing to work with us and instead build out the improvements that we needed. But this price would be included in the cost. So staff worked with EDA, came up with a price on a per square foot basis that would basically be 58 cents a square foot that would get added to the $2.02 a square foot for a new price of $2.60 a square foot. And of course, that was kind of broken down by the total amount of square footage available using the same $70 a square foot that Citrus Towers did for that apples to apples comparison. And from there, we were able to see that there's about a 50-cent per square foot savings on that. And really what we want to highlight here is that now at the Pacific Premier building, the EDA building, we're looking at $2.60 a square foot. The 5-year cost would be about $1.7 million. 10-year cost about $3.8. And then when compared to the Citrus Tower option that we presented last month at $3.10 a square foot, the 5-year cost there was about $2.1 million, and the 10-year cost was about $4.4. And what we want to stress is the savings that we're going to be getting with Pacific Premier Bank. After 5 years, we're looking at about a $326,000 savings. And after the 10-year lease is up, we're looking at about $640,000 in savings. So we're getting a much lower rate, and we're getting the tenant improvements built into the cost, which is going to provide some savings to us. So staff wanted to present this to the Executive Committee today. And that concludes my report, my quick report, Mr. Chair, and I'd be happy to take any questions. But we do have a requested action today, and that's to approve the recommendation to relocate the WRCOG offices to the Pacific Premier Bank building and seek a 10-year lease agreement with the County of Riverside. With that, I conclude my report, Mr. Chair.
Very good. And a question from the City of Corona?
There was one other question on the previous one, was the cost of parking. Yes. So I assume this one will not increase the cost of parking for employees?
No, that's correct. The price here will be the same as it is here, which is $35 per employee, which was $65 at Citrus Tower, so that is actually a lower price per employee as well.
So there's actually an additional savings on
There is
top of it.
additional savings, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. I have a mover by City Temecula and a second by City San Jacinto.
Can we clarify what the vote was?
Not yet, because they haven't closed it yet.
Oh, I thought you said, okay.
No, the motion was Temecula and the second was San Jacinto. I don't know. Everyone's just picking on me today for some reason. That's all right.
Are we voting on moving to Citrus or moving to Premier?
The staff
Premier.
recommendation is
Pacific
to relocate to the Pacific Premier Building.
Okay, thank you.
Gotcha. All right, good. And that's approved 18-1. The Water District doesn't want us moving? Oh. Okay. Moving on to the next item. Item D, the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee Update. Christopher?
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Chris Gray, Director of Transportation for WRCOG. I'm going to be very brief today. Supervisor Washington should be happy about that. We're going to provide you with an update on our TUMF Nexus study and brief you on a couple of items. We're going to have a extended briefing at our Admin and Finance Committee and discuss many of these issues with our TAC, Public Works Directors, and Planning Directors over the next couple of months. So we wanted to start out by just giving you some background on some information we've been using. This is all related to our Nexus study. For those of you who this keeps you up at night, if you're curious about growth projections for Western Riverside County, we were able to get some updated growth projections recently from SCAG. SCAG estimates, and UC Riverside concurs with this, is that we'll be adding about 600, we're projected to add about 650,000 people to the Western Riverside region over the next 25 years. And one of the reasons why we're doing a Nexus study and we're talking about a Nexus study is we're also finding that projects are costing more. There is a deviation that occurred in 2009 between we've not increased the TUMF fee in 9 years, and since then costs to deliver projects have increased. We just want to recap. We've mentioned this all to you before, but just so everyone understands, we have new growth forecasts from our last Nexus study. We've spent months and months with your jurisdictions. We've updated the way in which we calculated our fees. We've gotten new data. And we've also been working with our ad hoc, and we talked about that. But we do want to come out and make some explicit statements, is that, first of all, it's a very challenging environment for everyone. It's a very challenging environment for private developers, and it's a very challenging environment for the public sector. It's not easy to build a road. You have a lot of challenges. It's also not easy to build a project. So we're trying to find a balance of that in our Nexus study. And what we have done is, in our Nexus study, is we're recommending a modest increase in fees. We're being judicious on the projects we're adding, and we're also looking at some different phasing options to limit the impacts of any increases, and we're also regularly meeting with you, our cities, and our private sector partners to make sure we understand everyone's concerns. We want to be really clear about some things. There are some negative consequences to not adopting a new Nexus study. There are some projects which are currently underway where jurisdictions won't get funding. We think there's at least 6 projects in jeopardy. To share with everyone, this is where our current Nexus study, we have a nearly final draft, which will be out in a week or so. These are the fee levels. We're looking at fee increases that range from 2 to 21%. I will add, though, if we do take the action to bring Beaumont back into the program, these fee increases will go up by slightly 1 or 2%, depending on which projects we add. Because there are no projects from Beaumont in the Nexus study and haven't been since 2011. So to give everyone our schedule, we have been, or to talk a little bit more, been meeting with our ad hoc. We had Mayor Bailey on it. We had Calamasa on it. We had a number of city managers and public works directors. We had a meeting in January and asked them for their recommendation. The ad hoc came out very strongly. They want to phase any retail fee increases. The idea behind this is that retail fees in the WRCOG region are uniformly higher than other regions like San Bernardino County. There was a preponderance but not a unanimous recommendation by the ad hoc that we phase in any retail fee increase. So this was a scenario that the ad hoc recommended. We just want to remind everyone what you do with the Nexus study. You can adopt the Nexus study as is. You can adopt a fee level below what we recommend. We just have to make adjustments in the program. You can adopt all the fees and phase them in, or you can simply reject the Nexus study, which means the existing one stays in place. So our schedule is in January, we had our meeting with our ad hoc. In February, we'll be releasing our draft Nexus study. We'll be taking it to all of our committees. When the Nexus study is released, we'll have a 30-day public comment period. We'll be reviewing the draft Nexus study with our committees and also sharing with you our comments. We'd like to have the executive committee take some action on the Nexus study in May, and then any fee increase would go effect in July, August. The reason why there's a delay is that TUMP is implemented by an ordinance. So just to remind everyone, your jurisdiction commits to the TUMP program, all the rules, requirements, and other such by adopting an ordinance. That actually sets the fee, and in most cities that can take 2 to 3 months, sometimes a little bit longer. And then once a new Nexus study is adopted, which sets the fee, we'll be meeting with the jurisdictions to talk about any transitions to that. Mr. Chairman, with that, this is just a receive and file item, and happy to answer any questions anyone has.
All right, I still have a Corona in the queue. Corona, were you, that was the last time, sorry. District 3?
Chris?
Yes.
On your list, let's see, it's just a schedule of activities. Down when you get to July, August 2017, it says any change in fee goes into effect depending on each member jurisdiction's approval of TUMP ordinance resolutions. Is that implying that there needs to be a majority to implement any changes, or that each jurisdiction can adopt whatever changes they want?
No, it's actually each jurisdiction has a different schedule. Some jurisdictions have a 30-day waiting period between the reading of ordinances. Some jurisdictions have 60-day waiting periods. Every jurisdiction has a different process. So
that's just to talk about when whatever they decide takes effect?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, go ahead.
If I could just add to that, we typically set a date in the ordinance that the actual fee increase will be effective by, so we don't want to have different fees be effective in different agencies at different times. So there'll be, so we try to choose something 3 or 4 months out in advance so that we can say on November 1st the fee will go up and everybody should be able to meet that date.
If I could add to that, Mr. Chair. So the goal is, again, all of the jurisdictions, the fees would go into effect at the same time. But if I understood what I think may have been also in your question, Supervisor, jurisdictions are also free to adopt a fee that's less than what the recommended fee structure is from the Executive Committee, so long as they make up the difference.
That's a good point, and as we get further down the road, Rick, you may want to revisit for those member agencies that were not here when we did that the last time, what the other side of that coin was. I don't know that even then there was a lot of confusion as it relates to adopting. I think many agencies decided to adopt a 50%, but they were required to make up the difference. So.
Harupa Valley?
Yes, two questions. I just wanted to clarify, Chris, did you mention that adding Beaumont back into the TUMP would increase the fees by 1 to 2% across the board?
Correct, because Beaumont is not in the current Nexus study. They were removed, and if we bring Beaumont back into the TUMP program, we would have to add, they would be allowed to add projects to the Nexus study.
Okay, and my other question is on the third page of the staff report under change in TUMP administrative responsibilities. I see that RCTC is discussing the possibility of I guess, looking at bringing the TUMP program in under their organization. Is there a reasoning that was behind that item?
So first of all, let me preface that by saying that we'll be having an extended discussion on this at our Admin and Finance Committee. We feel that that item will require some additional time, and with our closed session and not wanting to keep you guys here till 6 o'clock. To recap, Supervisor Jeffries at a RCTC meeting asked that it be considered, and it was brought up and voted on at the RCTC meeting, which we attended. And rather than paraphrase Mr. Jeffries, we'd rather share with you his actual language, and he made some comments both at the initial meeting and the subsequent meetings. I don't have that actual language with me right now, but we'll be sharing that with you at the Admin and Finance because we think it's important to. And then I would also defer to, I know Councilmember Franklin was at, I believe, one or both of the, some of you were at both or many of those RCTC meetings, and you heard the same things that we did. But we think this is a substantive issue and one we'll want to address during our Admin and Finance Committee meeting in more detail.
All right, thank you.
City of San Jacinto?
I'm still concerned with the increase in retail. I'm showing that currently we're at 10.49. What are the other regions right now, if we're already at one of the higher?
So the issue is that when you calculate the fee increase, it's a combination of how much development will be occurring in that development type, how much the cost of the network, and et cetera. In our previous Nexus study, we had non-residential fee increases that were 60% across the board, and they've come down substantially. Our recommendation, and one that the ad hoc enthusiastically supported, was putting a minimum of a 2-year freeze in the retail fees so the fee doesn't go up at all. That's very similar to WRCOG phased in the non-residential fees when the TUMP was first adopted. So our recommendation is to look at some kind of freezing or phasing so there is no retail fee increase for some initial period of time.
Right, but that still doesn't answer my question. What are their fees? What are theirs?
Pardon?
What are theirs? If we're one of the top, we're one of the highest.
So for example, the average retail fee across the WRCOG region is $25 a square foot for retail. $10 of that is TUMP. The other $10 of that are fees charged by water districts, and on average, cities charge about $5 a square foot for retail uses. The high in the WRCOG region is about $35 a square foot because there's at least 1 or 2 cities that charge between $10 to $15 a square foot on retail uses. We're proposing to freeze the TUMP fee for a minimum of 2 years, so there is no retail fee increase.
But I believe our question is related to those other outside areas, San Bernardino, outside of WRCOG.
They are on average about $15 a square foot, so we're at least $10 higher than them.
Wow.
So.
And
So let me just repeat that. On average, when you look across the WRCOG region, all our fees are comparable to San Bernardino County except for retail. And I apologize, I actually had a slide, I took it out in the interest of time. So all our fees are comparable except for retail. On average, across the WRCOG region, we charge $25 a square foot in impact fees on retail. $10 of that is TUMP, $10 of that on average are water fees, and the other $5 are local city fees and other special district fees. The high for retail fees in our region is $35 a square foot, which a couple member agencies charge, mostly because there are additional city fees charged on retail. The average retail fee in San Bernardino for a comparable development project is approximately $15 a square foot. So recognizing that very significant delta, we're not proposing any, for at least a 2-year period, any increase in TUMP fees on retail.
So how do you think that's going to affect our regions? I mean, some of us, we're desperate to get retail in our area. So they either have to be project shovel ready now to get it in within that time frame, or they're going to get hit with another increase.
So one of the options of this board would be to have a longer. This is an implementation issue. You could have a longer fee time. You could tell us to come back in 2 years and recommend whether that freeze is maintained or not. The issue from a TUMP program perspective is retail accounts for about 5% of all our fees. So we can freeze it, phase it, do all these kinds of things, and not affect the overall bottom line of the program. And so when we discussed this with the ad hoc, we had a minimum of a 2-year freeze, and the ad hoc discussed one of the nuances was having us come back in 2 years and determining. So, for example, we've committed to redoing our fee study on a regular basis. One of the questions I would ask in 2 years is that delta still there, and if it is, this board could act to keep that retail fees freeze in place.
So if we're going for that, that's what I would put on the motion, then to come back in 2 years before we go hiking that, discuss it. So
right.
That's all.
So let me be clear. Today's an update, and we'll be asking each of our committees to hear this item at least 3 times. So there will be 2 informational presentations and 1 final action. So we will be bringing this to you multiple times. And I'd also like to add my usual pitch that we're happy to come out to see you, your staff, anyone else to talk about the TUMP program, anytime, anywhere. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, I'm happy to buy it. So we're here to talk to you, to give you everything you need on TUMP.
Ricky, I wanted to comment.
I just wanted to kind of elaborate on what Chris said for Member Ruiz. I think that what the admin committee is recommending, and again, it will go through all of the WRCOG committees before it eventually comes to the executive committee for a final decision, is to freeze the retail fee for a 2-year period. But I would fully expect, as has been the case in the past, that before you then start to phase the fee in, it would come to the executive committee for consideration with regard to whether they really want to do that. So this 2-year period will give us time to, further inform the executive committee with taking a look at how projects are tracking or not tracking, especially in comparison to the adjacent counties, and find out if there's anything that might be impacting that. And so we would come back with the details of that data during that 3rd-year period or prior to that 3rd-year period, come to the executive committee, and then you can determine what to do. And that's what you've done in the past.
All right, very good. I don't have anyone else in the queue. And unless there's any other questions, we'll move on. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is a report from the Technical Advisory Committee Chair, Gary Norquist.
Thank you. Yes, there was a meeting held on January 19th, just at the start of the storm season. And as you know, we did have a couple presentations from the water company and from flood control during that meeting, so it was very appropriate. And that concludes our report from the 19th of January.
Very good. Thank you very much. Our next items are the report committee representatives. SCAG. Debbie?
I'd like to report from the Community Economic and Human Development Committee. We had multiple presentations, and rather than try to tell you what they all were, their PowerPoint presentations are on the website. One was on mobility of millennials in California. Another was on active transportation, health, and economic impact study, and that is actually a really good one to look at because it talks about the cost of health in our areas as we age and what different things we're doing with active transportation and how it impacts the cost of the health of our communities and the economic impact. And then some of you are aware of a newspaper columnist by the name of Joel Kotkin. He talked about building cities for people. So all of those presentations are available on the SCAG website.
City of Hemet?
I wanted to report on the Environmental and Energy Policy Committee. We spent a good 2 hours, the whole entire 2 hours, on the pros and cons of building desalters. And quite a lively presentation, and it'd be interesting for you also to go on the website and see those presentations. Obviously, the con was that it wasn't cost effective, and I would beg to differ with that, but especially when you come to brackish desalter. So we're in the process of building our 3rd one, so we find it very beneficial. So anyway, I encourage you to look on the website as well and see what the pros and cons were about that. But it was a very interesting 2 hours. Thank you.
Very good. Canyon Lake? See the button there, Canyon Lake, update on SCAG, yes?
Thank you. I was going to comment on the same thing that Bonnie commented on. You know, it takes me about 3.5 hours to drive down to SCAG meetings. When I get there, I'm just about ready to fall asleep again. This presentation that we had on the pros and cons of desalinization, I hated to see it end. It was so informative. I can't formulate an opinion just yet, but the information was just fantastic, and I just wanted to thank SCAG and WRCOG for putting that presentation on. So thank you.
Well, very good. Sounds like you guys had a better meeting than I did. We focused on the Transportation Committee primarily on Measure M, which was very interesting for those folks in the room from the city of LA. For the rest of us, not so much. I'm up next for AQMD. If those of you that have been reading the paper the last few days, on Friday we had a very large meeting. We probably had, I lost count. I know at one point someone asked me about 2.5 hours in how many people have left to speak. We had 60 speaker cards left at that point. So it was quite a few people that came and gave us a comment on the AQMP. The AQMP as it sits is pretty well put together. There's been 186 public meetings leading up to the AQMP with both everyone you could think of at the table during those meetings. So we have a pretty good AQMP as it is. Some people would like it to be stronger, and I understand that, and I hear that, but I also know that that means that takes away some local authority, takes away our ability to foster as cities and other such things. So there's a balance there. We'll see how the meeting turns out next month. We had to continue the item. One of our members had to leave. He is a family member that passed away, and unfortunately, the family member had to be on the ground before Saturday, so he had to leave there, and actually Saturday afternoon, sorry, but he had to leave at 12 o'clock from Ontario so he could be where he needed to be in Arkansas, which was 2 or 3 airports away from the first airport he was going to. So multiple hop flight to get to where he was going. So unfortunately, he had to leave, and we all realized that he needed to be a part of that conversation. So we did go ahead and hold off for 1 month. So we'll see if there's another 400 people who want to comment next month, but we did close the public comment portion of that item. So we'll see how that works.
That's the good news.
Yeah, we'll see, because there's plenty of other items to speak to.
That's the good news.
Yeah, and Marion was.
We were headed for a train wreck, and
Marion is my new colleague there on the board, and thank you for joining us there, Marion. And
I'm there waiting for we're kind of headed for this train wreck. I'm waiting for Ben and the chairman to step up and say something, and then nobody's saying anything. And we're going to have this vote whether to continue it or not. And I said, hey man, he said, I'm sorry, this man had gone to a funeral. It's not his fault. He had a relative die. Let's continue this. And still, there's 3 people still voted not to continue it. 3.
Some people wanted to just get it done.
What's 1 more month? You spent 3 or 4 years. And then we got these new proposals from Sheila Kuehl, the county supervisor from LA County, brand new supervisor. She's been a supervisor 1 month, and she's been on that 1 month, But she had all these ideas, and some of there's some interesting ideas. We really need to look at what she presented and see if we can work with those and make them work, or if not, not do them. And even I don't know how it's going to end up, because there's an ideological split, but I'm not sure that the votes are going to go that way. I think it's going to go, sort of on a practical viewpoint. I hope so, for our sake, for the sake of our region. But by the way, you'd be very impressed the way Ben is vice chair of the group, and he ran half that meeting. They took turns running the meeting, and he did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
On that meeting, and I was really impressed, and I was also impressed the way the board handled themselves. You have a lot of real bright people there, and we had hundreds of people testified, hundreds. We used, I believe it's 1 minute each.
Yep.
You can get a lot of people 1 minute each. Don't forget that one, folks. Okay, so more next month.
Yep. Brian, CalCog?
Yeah, the next meeting is at the end of March.
Very good. Report from Executive Director. Rick?
Not much to report, although I will be sending notices of the pending SCAG Regional Council District elections. So those members of within the WRCOG subregion that represent an odd-numbered SCAG district, those are the seats that are available for election this year. And so I'll be sending those notices out today, and we'll be looking to conduct those elections, or helping SCAG conduct the elections, in mid-March.
Very good. Items for future agendas, anyone?
The chairman's.
Rick, you had something about a move you wanted to bring back again? No? Okay, we're good. General announcements, anyone? Debbie has a general announcement. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know, if you did not have a chance to go see Dr. Lucy Jones' presentation on earthquake preparation, our city is having her actually come out on April the 29th, and she will be talking at 11 o'clock about at-risk buildings and what you need to do in advance to prepare for the aftermath of earthquakes.
Very good. Yeah, it was a very good presentation she put on. Anyone else? All right. With that, we've already gone through closed session. Our next meeting will be here on March 6th at 2 p.m. When that, we'll move to adjournment. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Good job.